looks like we have Tori is on, Barry Byler, Glenn, I think that's McIntyre. I see Heather's on there. Ed, I would imagine that's Ed Glenn, Jackie McCauley, Junior Drago, Katie Norton, Kevin Kennedy, Leslie Pearson, Marta, that's Barajas, I would imagine. Mike Lees, and I think that's everything. My wife was on there, but she's not on there.
Forgot to mention Tori.
No, I did say Tori at the beginning. She was the first one. So, and then we have the council members that are here. We got myself.
Shall I do roll call?
Yeah, go ahead and do a roll
How
call.
about we do a flag salute first, following that order of operations?
Oh yeah, we probably do the flag salute. I'm sorry. So we'll do the flag salute and then we'll do our roll call for our council. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we'll do the roll call for the councilors, please.
Okay, Leslie?
Here.
Beagle? Here. Oh, I barely heard him, sorry. Katie?
Here.
Junior? Oh, I see him.
Here.
Isaac?
Also here.
Isaac?
Here.
Brenda?
Here.
Kiefer?
Here. Everyone is present. What we'll do is let's go over the approval of the minutes, February 2, 2021, regular meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the February 2nd, 2021 minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion to approve it and I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, if any? Okay.
Excuse me, Mayor Kiefer?
Yes.
When the person that motions and the persons that seconds, could you please identify their names? Because I can't always see who says it.
Oh, copy that. Mr. Beagle was the one that made the motion and Brenda Profit seconded.
I think for the process, because Zoom is so convoluted, rather than have Heather try to do this, we probably should have Tony. That's why we brought her for tonight, because Zoom is so hard for them to hear my recommendation.
Yeah, I agree that Heather, she can just listen.
So Heather, you're just gonna listen? Did you hear the conversation?
I did. We've done this several times before, so, okay.
Is that okay? So we'll just do that, Tony?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to the February 16th, 2021 special meeting minutes.
I'd like to move to approve the February 16th, 2021 minutes.
Oh, second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, if any? Passes. Do we have any introductions at this time?
No, we'll have some on that will be joining us on Zoom before long.
Okay.
And then Tori.
Yeah, and Tori will be.
What part is Tori? Can I see it?
Put her under public comments.
Public comment for Tori?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so she'll follow Ed Glenn.
Yes.
Karen, this is David Albrecht. I've joined.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Well, where are you?
I'm at my desk.
There, I see you. Okay, got it. Okay, so do we want to go to his prearranged presentation then?
Karen, you can go ahead, and I'm more than happy to hang on until you get to the appropriate part in the agenda.
Okay,
He's
hang
next.
on.
Okay, so we just have to discuss the financial report.
Yes.
And that would be Martha, correct?
Marta, are you going to say something about this? Or do you want me to?
I can, and then you can add on if you have more.
Great idea.
Okay. So in front of you, you have your February 28, 2021 ending financials. We did, if you notice at the bottom right-hand corner of your financials, it's a little different than before. These are the budgeted transactions that we had. And so about mid-year, we make these transfers. These are all inter-fund transfers. And it's a little hard to follow, but you kind of get the gist of where they're moving out of and where they're moving to. This is part of what we budget to move over funds to our reserve funds for those bigger projects or infrastructure projects that we may have. So that's what's different, first of all, to point out there. We have completed the broadband project for within the city of limits of Boardman. And we have received all the funds from the state for that grant. We worked in conjunction with BCDA, and so they paid the invoices while this project was being put together, but we got the funds, so now we'll be receiving an invoice from BCDA to kind of transfer over those funds. And that will be around $687,000. That was about the total amount of that project.
And that will come out of our general fund.
Yes.
And that will leave us a balance of?
Well, year-to-date revenue is 5 million. And so we won't even take 100. Because if you look at the general fund, number 100 on the, it has lines carried over.
Yeah, it's 5,400,000.
5,159,000. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, I got 5,400,000.
I have 5,402.
You're at the very
You're looking,
end.
you're looking at
You
the,
need
I
to go
think
back
you're
to
looking at the
column
wrong
C
column
under
C.
revenue.
yeah, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So anyway, that we will take, the money will come out of that fund. And because, I'm sorry, Marta, I'm talking for you again.
That's fine.
On your total revenue this month in the general fund, it says 338,562. Your top number, you're right there.
Right.
$122,010 of that was from the broadband. So that's, I mean, this is, the general fund has had unusually high revenue in them the last couple of months because of the broadband checks coming into us and then taxes coming in November. So it normally, we don't have that kind of figures there. So, and then what, the 67,000 was from, COVID money came into us of that 338. So anyway. Okay, Marta, you're on.
Yes, for those of you that didn't know, because I know when it was kind of dispersed out, it wasn't very clear, but the small business grants that were run through the Chamber of Commerce, once again, that grant was given to the city, and we used the Chamber of Commerce to help us take in those applications, process them, and get the money distributed out to the small businesses. We thought that'd be a good way to reach the small businesses inside the city limits. So that money also ran through our general fund.
How much was that, Marta?
You may have to
Speak up.
Oh, sorry. Marta, how much money went through the city for the small business grants?
Well, we were originally awarded $25,000 from the state, and BCDA matched another $25,000. It was a little disappointing that we didn't have as many businesses apply. So we did have to send back 15,000.
Had to send back how much?
15,000.
Of the 50 that they had,
Right.
So we only had 35.
or of the 25.
But we went out, we shouldn't even discuss COVID funds. Because there was a lot of money available, people, and as it's turning out, people were afraid to apply because they didn't want to be taxed on it because we were selling that it was a gift. And now you see the Oregon.
Yes.
Anyway, so now they may have to pay taxes on it, and that doesn't make it a gift. And so it was hard to give it away, and it's going to be harder to justify to these people that you looked in the eye and said, I'm giving you a gift.
And some of them, because there was a lot of money from different pots, different places, once they were being processed, they tried to find the biggest grant for the small business. So they may not have qualified for this one because they qualified for a bigger one through maybe the county or GODC, because those were some of the other ones that were offering assistance. So it wasn't that we only had, 3 apply, but it was also the best for the business was sought. And so they may not have gotten this one so that they could get more assistance through another one.
I see.
But once again, these are one-time, never before type of grants that the city has had or anybody in the state because of COVID. The broadband grant also came about because of COVID. So that's why these are kind of unique and unusual for us, but.
Okay.
Is there any other questions about the financial report? All right, having none, we'll move right along.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to shout out to Marta for getting this done and getting it to us today, the updated version. She did an awesome job at completing the task.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, we'll rearrange presentations. Mr. David Albrecht
Yes. So
for Geo Bonds.
yeah, so Karen, I was going to ask, since there's a resolution in front of the council tonight, would you like me to wait until that resolution is presented before the council before I talk? So matter this, the presentation is really in front of you as the council, is a resolution to authorize the issuance of the general obligation bonds for the water wastewater project, including the refunding of some existing prior debt. So Karen, I defer to you from that standpoint of, would you like me to talk about it now or would you like to wait?
Well, I think that the council, can the councilors go to resolution 4-2021 in their packets?
Yes.
Well,
That's where I'm going at right now.
So are you online? Are you on the resolution 4-2021?
I'm there.
Okay. So Katie and Leslie, are you on that resolution yet?
Yes.
Okay. All right, now that they're on the resolution, go ahead and do your presentation.
Okay. Well, thank you. And sorry I was not able to attend in person. I always like enjoy coming out to Morrow County and particularly Boardman. I have a close affiliation to your community for probably 30 years. Anyway, so in front of you tonight is the resolution that is authorizing the issuance of the general obligation bonds that are approved by the voters in May 19 of 2020. The purpose of this bond Karen's probably provided to you and other and staff members of the city, is to make improvements to the city water and wastewater system. And within that, the bond was authorized in an amount sufficient to pay off an existing bond issue that was tied to the water and wastewater. You know, it was refinanced in 2016, and I think it goes back to 2003, 2006 era when those bonds were approved. But this is essentially a parameters resolution to set in place the moving forward of the new bond sale for the bond issue itself. A lot of it, there is a lot of language in the resolution that has to deal with the federal tax code, security for the bond, and other transferability of the bond and the sale of the bond. And so a number of things. And if you've had a chance to look through the resolution, I can address each section if you want. But basically it allows the city to proceed with the bond sale and do all things necessary to issue the bond without having to go back to the city council to get the bond sold. I think we were looking at originally a bond issue that would produce an estimated tax rate of, you know, $1.56 per thousand when the bonds were approved. Right now we're about $1.35 to $1.45 per thousand based on current market for the bond issue. So really I'm here tonight to address those questions that you may have with regards to the issuance of the bonds.
I guess the only question I have, this resolution allows the sale of the bonds that we've already kind of agreed that we were going to do, right?
Yes,
correct.
the voters have agreed that we can do.
The voters have agreed, and then we have chosen that we're going to sell the bond, right? Or
Correct.
part of the bond. Are we selling all of it at one time or just parts of it?
We're going to sell all of the bonds at one time. And I think the reason for that is one, you know, market rates are still low, although the market, you know, interest rates have creeped up a little bit, but market rates are still fairly low and allows the city to lock in the rate for the life of the bond without worrying about market risk in the future. So we're going to take, you know, a certain amount of proceeds of the bond, pay off the old bonds that will leave then the proceeds for the city to expend the bonds on the water and the wastewater project. So, well, the process is this. We're going to sell the bond. We're going to take roughly $4.5 million of the bonding authorization, put it in an escrow account to pay off the 2016 bonds. Then that leaves you the proceeds to proceed with your water wastewater project that you have in front of you.
And we'll pay off those other bonds in June, right?
Yeah, so the escrow account, so like I said, we're going to take the proceeds, put them in an escrow account. So when the new bond is sold, those proceeds that go into that escrow account to pay off the 2016 bonds on June 1st, essentially no longer exist from the city's standpoint. But they'll still be in existence until June 1st of the call date, but there's sufficient funds there to pay off that debt service. So they no longer exist from an accounting standpoint from the city.
Mr. Mayor, I have a few questions.
Yes, Mr. Beagle.
I don't know if it's standard practice, but it says the bonds will be issued without certificates being made available to the bondholders. Is that just standard practice now?
So everything's pretty much electronic anymore. So, you know, back when I first got it into the business, you know, 30 years ago, there were actually bond certificates that were issued. So what will happen is that there is a bond certificate that is issued, but for each maturity, and it sits in a repository called the DTC, the Depository Trust Company. But as an investor, you essentially have a record through your broker or whatever firm that you might go through to invest in the city of Boardman. So it's a record of the bond. So there's not individual certificates issued anymore.
You don't go to the safe deposit box anymore and drag out grandma's.
You're not clipping coupons.
I was, you know, I'm still from the old school. That's how we did things.
That's how we did things.
I do have more questions. Where do you go? Oh, there it is. It mentions that you're changing agents. I guess the second or third page there, which says upon delivery of the depository to the city and a registered owner of the bond, a written notice to the effect that the depository has determined to substitute a new nominee in place of the nominee, then the word nominee in this resolution shall refer to such new nominee of the depository. Is that a standard practice as well?
That is a standard as practice as well. And so if for some reason during the life of the bond that you were to change the nominee or the register of the bond, that's a standard practice.
On section 13, where'd you go? Okay. It mentions, it's got bullet statements for a number of items there. And my question is concerning the acquiring land, and what would we be acquiring land for with this resolution?
Where we're gonna put the new lagoon.
Oh, okay.
We don't own that property yet.
All right, thank you.
And I can't get the port to give it to me.
Okay.
Because I've tried.
My last question, David.
Yes,
on this particular resolution, do we have insurance for this bond, or are we going to have insurance for this bond?
So what it does, the resolution allows you to get or apply for bond insurance. And what that does is the insurance for the bond is essentially a credit enhancement for the investors. And you have to take a look at the cost of that insurance versus what the market rate is. And if the cost of the insurance outweighs, you know, the market rate on the bond, then you might want to consider insurance. So what it does is it allows the flexibility to look at this so-called credit enhancement for the bond. Doesn't mean you have to do it, but allows the flexibility to take a look at it. Say, so for example, if you're an A-rated credit from the credit rating agencies, and you're able to get municipal bond insurance, that would then, with that insurance, makes you a AA rated credit. The interest cost is going to be lower, but you have to look at the economics to see if that credit enhancement is an economic benefit to the city, and in the end, to the taxpayers that are paying the bond. So we'll look at that, we'll explore that option, and then we will present that.
Sounds good to me.
I have a question. This is Junior.
Go ahead, Junior.
So do we have a plan if we cannot acquire the land for the lagoon?
We've been dealing with the port on property, which piece we wanted compared to which piece we're going to end up having. And I think that we want it right up there in that same area. And so, oh, you didn't go on the field trip. So anyway, whenever it's in the same area and the port and us will come to an agreement, I think we're probably trying to survey it and stuff as we speak.
Okay, thank you.
But on that note, it's going to be really difficult to expand that sewer system up there in 25 or 30 more years. You know, they're not making more property. So then by then, though, probably there'll be new ways to handle affluent. I mean, you know, so we won't be just applying it on property like we do now.
So on that note, is if we can't acquire the land that we want, are we still going to be able to transfer water and be able to dry dredge the existing lagoon?
Yes, I think, yes, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Were there any other questions? So we need to pass this resolution or vote on the resolution? We could do the resolution right now, but we could.
I think you could do it right now and be
Might as
done
well
with
be
it.
done with that since we've talked about it.
Well, I'd like to move that we pass resolution 4-2021. Do I need to read the whole title or just the?
Just read it by the title.
Yes.
Read it by the title.
Yeah, I think we read the whole title, the resolution number and then the title.
Okay.
City.
That is correct. Just read it by the title, the number and the title only.
Okay. City of Boardman, Resolution 4-2021, a resolution of the City of Boardman, Morrill County, Oregon, authorizing the issuance and sale of one or more series of general obligation and refunding bonds, designating an authorized representative, bond counsel, and financial advisor, authorizing appointment of a paying agent and a bond registrar, and authorizing publishing of a notice.
Thank you. Okay, Brenda. Now you get to
move
yes.
that we approve resolution 4-2021.
And we'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve resolution 4-2021 and a second. We'll just do a roll call.
Junior?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Brenda? Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Paul Kiefer?
Yes. So the resolution passes. We'll cross that off down there. All right, so having that, we'll move on to Mike Lee's Anderson Perry.
So David, are you going to leave or are you going to stay and listen?
Oh, no, I'm going to stay and listen.
Oh, good job.
He's watching.
Thank you.
Right.
I know, I see that.
Yeah. Who's winning, by the way?
As I said, you know, I've been involved in, you know, Morrill County and Boardman for close to 30 years now. And Karen always joked with me about, you know, why don't I get a travel trailer and move out there? Because I spend a lot of time because I work with a number of folks in the county. So I am going to hang on. I'm going to shut my camera off so you don't see me, but I'm going to hang on, Karen. But thank you. And thank you, Council, for everything. I appreciate the opportunity to be working with all of you.
All right, sorry.
Thank you.
All right, well, good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Lees. I'm with Anderson Perry. And first off, I'd like to congratulate everyone with their newly awarded positions as counselors and mayor. There's a lot of new faces, and I look forward to getting to know you all and working with you throughout the next upcoming years. There's a lot of work to do. For those of you that I have not met, a little background on myself. I grew up in Baker City, and I live in LeGrand now with my wife and 3 kids. I've been working with Anderson Perry for a little over 5 years, which is about the same amount of time I've been working with the city of Boardman. The relationship between the city and Anderson Perry goes back about 42 years. That's when Anderson Perry designed the original wastewater system. So it's kind of interesting that we're, designing improvements for the second time on the wastewater system. So anyway, tonight I have got 3 things on my agenda. One is which is a $1,000 scholarship for deserving Boardman senior. Number 2 and 3 are related to the water project and the wastewater project. So I'll get into the scholarships. Each year, Anderson Perry donates 10 to 12 $1,000 scholarships to communities throughout Eastern Oregon. It's important that our company give back to the communities where we work. Not to mention that it's fun to get involved with the kids and give a student $1,000 for their next venture in life. Yeah, the whole intent there is just to help the kids. It's not necessarily a requirement that the student wants to be an engineer, but it would be nice to award the scholarship to somebody who's going either for science, technology, engineering, or math. So this scholarship is provided to the city. Basically, the city will be presenting this scholarship to the student. And there's a couple of approaches we can take regarding to the level of involvement the city has. Some cities prefer to have control over the application application process, that's not a problem. But we can help in any regard possible. The second option's more of a hands-off approach, and so Anderson Perry has a website set up with the application already, and we can act as sort of a liaison between the school and the city. And then once that application period ends, we can coordinate with the city on review of the applications and selecting a winner and setting up, maybe an agenda item on the council meeting for awarding that. So is there any questions in regards to the scholarship?
Sounds like
all right. Well, I'll move on to the water project status update.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
On the scholarship, are you going to identify what the parameters are for qualified students that are going to apply?
I would imagine so. I personally haven't looked at the application, but having filled out a couple of scholarship applications in my previous years, I would imagine there's some qualifications requirements.
So what I'm asking is the senior that's going to apply, are they going to be aware of the parameters before they apply? Is it going to be common knowledge on the application what the parameters are?
That's a great question. I personally haven't seen the application, so I'm unable to answer your question.
Thank you.
So are you meaning the parameters are like science, technology, engineering, or math?
GPA, community activities, those types of things.
I'm sure it's a standard scholarship application. I didn't look at it. We gave one last year. And I think the school, you know, Riverside handled it. And like I say, we were in COVID, so we weren't doing the big handshaking promotion thing, so.
So is it open to everybody? Or is it specifically generated for the topics that you presented, like engineering, math? I mean, obviously, those are, since that's what your firm deals with, that's probably a direction, but is it still open for anybody?
It's open to everybody.
Gotcha. And then you'd find that information out probably when you open up the application, it would tell you if you meet the needs of what it has, I would imagine.
There we go. So.
Well,
I'm pretty sure it did. I would think so, because they all do.
and I guess I'd like to enter here that a couple of years ago, Mike and Brad were here doing a presentation when we had a number of students in the audience. And it gave them, and particularly Brad, a really good opportunity to encourage the kids to look into engineering, because they were doing a presentation probably on this bond project and explaining, you know, like, boy, there's lots of opportunities. And so they really, and 2 or 3 of the boys after the meeting came up and talked to them. So we were really, I mean, that's what you want, is kids engaged with people that are in the field. So anyway.
Yeah, it was the state champion soccer team was there.
That's what it was.
Oh, for the board,
Yeah.
city.
Yeah, that was fun.
To come up with how we wanted to do it, whether we just go through the website. I think the website would be the easiest for the kids to go to.
Or do we even need to do anything?
Well, I think that I guess here's what I think. That I would call over at school and tell the counselor to make sure and put on her list that this scholarship's available again this year. And that you go to this link and do this and let them take care of it.
I like that.
Yeah.
And our HR person will get in touch with you guys and figure out the appropriate method for who to contact and how to get the word out on the scholarship. So we're kind of in its infancy right now. So we'll get more details further along as we go.
Really cool.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Tori's got a question.
It says, Mike, what is the deadline for the scholarship?
I do not have those details at this time.
Okay.
See, teach you to bring up something. No.
Kinds of questions.
Well, we had this for conversation. Okay, go on.
All right, we'll get into the water project.
Something you know about.
Yeah, I can talk about this water project for hours, but I won't. So the water project has 3 major components, and the design and construction are being phased accordingly. Phase 1 is the collector well number 3, and we're ready to advertise for bids or for requests for proposals on that project. What's holding us up there is approval from the Army Corps of Engineers. And that leads me to our current focus on the water project is the environmental assessment. I'm not sure, you know, environmental assessments are generally speaking, like asking every state, federal, and tribal agency for input on the project. We call that the scoping period. And then they respond with any concerns they have with the project and potential environmental impacts. The scoping period ended February 19th. So we've received all the comments from the agencies that are interested in commenting on this project. And we're currently preparing the draft environmental assessment for the Army Corps of Engineers review. The draft addresses those comments received during the scoping period, and we anticipate having that draft to the Army Corps within the next 2 weeks. So once we get that to the Army Corps, that begins a 45-day review period. And it's during that, once we get the comments back from the Army Corps, we'll address the comments and go from there. The other environmental piece of this environmental assessment is the joint permit application. The JPA basically sets the rules for the city to do work within a waterway. And in this instance, that's the Columbia River. So like Collector 2, there is a splash pad, which is infrastructure that was installed so you can pump water from the well and pump it back to the river without destroying the bank. And that's all associated with water quality. So in order to do this splash pad, you have to work below the ordinary high water. And therein lies the need to get the JPA permit. Now we've received a lot of feedback regarding the splash pad because it doesn't check a box. When you do a JPA, there's certain projects that are typically done within a waterway, like a boat launch or a boat dock or a bank restoration project that already have these rules established. And when you fill out your joint permit application, you already know what requirements are needed to be met. Well, that's the problem with this splash pad, is that there's not very many of them that are installed. I can think of one, and it's the Collector 2 splash pad. So back when Collector 2 splash pad was installed, I guess you could say there weren't as many rules and regulations established at that time. And so a lot of things have changed within the last 20 years within the Army Corps and the regulatory agencies. So it's a lot tougher to get something like this done. So we're working through this process with the agencies, and we'll have to see how it goes.
Mr. Mayor.
We had a question from Junior. Can you read it? Because
there's a question from it says, is there a specific time that we can do work in the water?
Yes, there is. There's established, it's called the in-water work window for this reach in Boardman of the Columbia River. And I believe it's December 1st through March 31st is the in-water work window.
So I guess that what that really means is that next year, if we could probably put that splash pad in the river, that it wouldn't be a holdup to doing the rainy collector, drilling it and doing all of the other work that's on land. But that splash pad would have to fit in that window. Is that right?
That's correct. Yes. So once we do get the approval and we can start advertising and award the contractor with the contract to do the Collector 3 work, that Collector 3 construction is going to last anywhere between 7 to 9 months. So these phases of the construction project will likely overlap. So there's a lot of variables, and it's tough to look in my crystal ball dealing with all these agencies and really set a timeline as to when we're going to be able to start construction.
I keep saying, Mike, if we could just get the Corps of Engineers to get in a car and drive to Boardman, Oregon, and see what we're talking about, it is so simple. But it's so difficult to sit in downtown Portland and try to envision our Columbia River up here. We just made and maybe Kevin in his report will talk about it. We just had him go down and plant all kinds of willow switches, in the bank to keep the restoration going. I mean, if people could just see what we're doing out here, it's way too simple, but they're making it really difficult. And with COVID, it has become more difficult because somebody comes to work today and then they aren't to work again for another 3 weeks. And, you can't even set up a phone call and get 5 people to get on a phone call at one time over there anymore.
Yeah, there's a lot of different players involved through this environmental assessment JPA process. And we've had a number of meetings with the Army Corps, and it never fails that somebody's not there or somebody wasn't at the last meeting, and we have to go back and re-explain the entire project. Whereas if we could just sit in a room with figures that we could hand out to everybody, and we could actually physically touch papers and talk to each other face to face, we get a lot more progress. But unfortunately, that's not where we're at right now. And it is frustrating, but we're doing our best to keep the ball rolling with these guys and get some boots on the ground and get some construction going. I'm looking forward to construction.
You have anything else, Gary?
No, he's wanting construction because he's sick of me calling him.
So does that end your presentation?
I was just going to touch a little bit on the wastewater project. There was mention of the land acquisition, and we're working with the county surveyors on that process to divvy out the Lagoon 4 parcel. And it's involved. It's going to take some time, but we have our marching orders, and we're moving forward. So it's a lot of survey work, but we're getting her done. And unless anybody else has any questions, then that sums up my presentation.
I guess I would like to, for those of you that weren't involved in the bond sale process, Mike came and joined the mayor and Mike Wilson, which was the spokesman, and myself and Mike came, and we did it's not called rapid fire, but whatever.
Facebook
Live presentations. And he was really great because he could answer technical questions so that people could understand. So thanks a lot, because he really did help in that.
I think I remember seeing that.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you, Karen. It was fun. I think that was the first Facebook Live, I guess, event that I've been associated with. And I know it was the first one Anderson Perry has been associated with. So I've become, I don't know if I'm the specialist for Facebook Live presentations, but Island City is going out and they're doing some sort of live feed broadcast. I think it's this week on their wastewater project coming up, and an engineer came up and asked me, you know, well, what did you do here and there? And I was just like, oh, kind of just, I don't know. I don't want to say we winged it, but we had a, you know, we met beforehand and got our script together, and I think it went pretty well.
Well, what you need to tell them the truth is that we got better, that by the third time, we were pretty good. The first time, we were pretty miserable, so.
Yeah.
Tell them, schedule 2 or 3 events.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me speak to you all, and I really look forward to getting in front of the council and meeting you all in person and being done with these Zoom meetings and me talking to my computer. I don't enjoy talking to my computer, I tell you that.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Do we have any petitions for our next item?
No.
Okay, we'll go on to public comment. Mr. Glenn. You are on, Mr. Glenn.
In your packet, I put his memorandum to the city council so that you would.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it's probably about the 4th or 5th page in your paperwork. So Ed, are you awake?
Maybe not. Do you want me to call him? Just to make sure.
Oh, okay. We can go ahead and do something. You can call
Okay.
him.
We'll oh, there he is.
I'm here.
Hi, Ed. Welcome.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Good.
I hope you understand my memo. We can't use building fund surplus to repair water and sewer systems. But we can give a discount for building permits on new houses approximately equal to system development charges on those new houses, and we can then collect the system development charges for the benefit of the water and sewer funds. Okay, we can do what was impossible to do. I hope everybody understood this time around.
So is he talking about just flip-flopping money by doing kind of just it's just a paper?
It would be kind of the same amount of money. The problem is that the state is in control of our building. And Glenn, the building official may have something. Do you want to add something now?
Yeah, I would. It's and that idea actually seems to make sense. What? So I've seen the state allowed jurisdictions to waive building permit fees for things like natural disaster recovery. I know that's happening now with the fires from last year. I've not seen the state allow that for incentives to get builders to build, but I could certainly start that conversation if you guys would give me that direction.
Okay.
Well, I, Mr. Mayor, believe that it's a ingenious kind of idea. The idea that we're trying to give a break so that we can entice people to build. But we have really taken a hit for as long as I've known about it in the water and sewer fund, because it's what we always give a break on. So if we could, if it's possible to do it.
That way we wouldn't have a hit on the water and sewer.
And maybe it's not something you'd want to do ad infinitum into the future, but it could be something that would.
I think we need to look at the legality of it.
Well,
before we
yeah,
do
with the
anything
state.
else.
That's where the state's gonna control this. This is a great idea. And I think that, like you say, trading the money seems to be pretty equal. It's that other than if you are, if you're a mobile home, they fall under a different category as permitting. So, you know, like, I think that, Glenn, do you want to talk a minute about?
Yeah, so a permit fee for manufactured home setup is about $300. And then the building permits to build the garage or carport, you know, a double car garage costs about $20,000 to build. So they're going to be in the neighborhood of, the permit fees are going to be in the neighborhood of just a few $100s. So for a manufactured home development, waiving the permit fees is really not going to be an equal like for like. The SDCs are going to far outweigh the building permit costs.
So is like these Highline homes and Palm Harbor homes, are they considered a manufactured home, or are they considered a house that you would have to buy a permit on?
Well, we have a development coming into town just at the end of, what's the name of that road?
Oregon Trail.
Thank you. And that is a manufactured home community. They're all Palm Harbor homes. So
In saying that, they will not pay building permits. And so they wouldn't gain anything. They only will gain if we do the waiver of the water and sewer permits. So I think there's a lot of things that we need to sit. I mean, this isn't like, oh, next meeting, we'll have something ready for you. This time next year, we'll have something ready for you to consider maybe, but
possibly.
So
the permits for a manufactured home, or excuse me,
Mr. Mayor.
The permits for manufactured homes about 25%.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Ed.
I think the whole program requires a bit of research. We need to know how much building permits are for various kinds of structures and how much the sewer and water systems charges are on those same kinds of structures, so that it's possible to structure a system where the two might be somewhere equal. That's the only pitch I have, is that both the building permit and the sewer development charges add to the cost of a new home. As I recall years ago, we started waiving the system development charges as an incentive to develop new houses. That leaves the sewer and water funds underfunded, while at the same time, the building fund runs so efficiently that it's accumulating an increasing cash carryover from year to year with no end in sight. That concerns me.
This is Karen. No, I think that this is a good idea to look at because like Ed has pointed out to us, you know, we're generating money that we can't spend on a lot of other things where our water and sewer always needs, I mean, we can always, you know, use more money there, so.
I have an example of a house. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, you can go ahead and do, I was just gonna say, so we probably should just encourage our staff to take a look at this and research it and find out what we can and can't do and whether it's pro and cons and take it from there.
I'll start reaching out tomorrow.
So what were you gonna say?
I worked up a quick, the other day, a quick comparison of one of the houses at 537 Anthony. It's a 2,959 square foot house. I don't know how much they're selling it for, but the valuation is $273,000. So the building, plumbing, and mechanical permit fees come to $2,845. The SDCs on that house, sewer and water, is $2,581. So that's just an example of one house.
$5,200 there.
What, Glenn?
Well,
yeah.
I want to talk.
I do.
So, do you think we can waive the mechanical and the plumbing? I thought we were only going to discuss the building permit.
I just wanted to keep everything on the table and might as well go for everything.
You know,
now, just so you know, I'm sorry, we cannot do electrical because we don't have the electrical program.
Right, right. My question was, what about a business?
Well, we're not going there.
Well,
no, I mean, that was the answer. That this is about residential, I think.
Only. Because we've been waiving SDC charges, haven't we, for businesses?
For commercial, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll work on this.
Okay.
And see if we can't find some good answers on how to make this happen.
All right, so there's homework.
More homework.
More homework, yep. All right, Tori, you are up.
All right, I will not be able to turn my camera on because it's already kicked me off once because I have no internet. So, right. So I just want to say to Mike Lee's deal, we have on the chamber website, we have a page dedicated to just scholarships that are available to students at Riverside. So we'll be adding this to that scholarship list as well. March Chamber Luncheon, join us on March 17th on Zoom or Chamber Live. We will have Angela Boatman, plant manager for Pacific Ethanol, talking about their transition to Alto Ingredients and the changes of the direction they're going to be moving their business to. Plus I'll be giving normal chamber updates. Reminder tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. you can join the Oregon Legislative Affairs discussion. It is hosted by Blue Mountain Community College in partnership with Eastern Oregon Chambers. You can join in with Senator Hansel and Representative Levy for updates on bills and questions you have regarding your county. More County COVID-19 vaccines continue to roll out on a availability basis only. They're asking people to contact Moore County Health Department and complete the COVID-19 form online. Once you are eligible, they will contact you and get you scheduled for your vaccination time. At current time, I think they've moved to 60 and older. And then the information is available in English and Spanish. Our virtual Lunch and Learn series, the last one of the final series, will be March 18th. We'll be discussing power hours, master the time management matrix. So join us for that last one. Reminder that the 31st Annual Distinguished Citizens Awards Banquet Zoom and link to our chamber live. We'll be recognizing our distinguished citizens from 2020. The award sponsors and the recipients will be joining us live to receive their awards from the sponsor. All others are asked to join us on Chamber Live or Zoom. And we're requesting everybody to purchase your, pre-order your meals from Paradise Rose by tomorrow is the deadline. You can find that information on our website. 33rd Annual Frostbite Scholarship Golf Tournament is scheduled for March 27th at Marker 40 Golf Club. Tee-off time at 8:30 a.m. Registration opens at 7. And I can say we are officially full and have a waiting list. Beginning March 8th, you'll be able to purchase raffle tickets, and those raffle tickets will be baskets that we have gathered from surrounding businesses. And the money that is raised during our tournament will go towards the Boardman Chambers Scholarship for Riverside seniors. And then reminder to save the date for our virtual Career Connect job fair on April 28th. You can find more information on our website. And the morning session is open to students where they connect with colleges and businesses. And the afternoon session is where general public can connect with job seeker or job employers, potential employers. And that is pretty much what I have right now. Any questions?
That is a great report of what's going to be happening in this month.
Yes, busy.
Yes, it's very exciting.
Yes, and sports are starting for Riverside, so that's even more exciting.
Yes, I think they had one tonight, volleyball and Pilot Rock, I think is what they had.
Yep, they did. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, moving right along, we're down to our ordinances. Ordinance 1-2021, Cross Connection Control Program, the first reading.
Okay, Kevin and I will talk about this, but the part I'm going to put in is they brought this up to me a while back, like maybe 6 months or a year, and it had a portion in there where we would charge you $40 to come out and do this inspection. And I said, no, we will not charge you $40. I'm not going to pass a bond issue and tell people that I'm not going to raise their water and sewer bill and then turn straight around and start billing them $40 to have you come out and check your cross connection in your water. So we came to that agreement that no, we will not charge. So Kevin, have you unmuted Kevin, or is it up to him?
He has to
unmute. So okay. I said to Kevin that he can come and explain to you the reason that the state wants us to do this. So are you ready, Kevin?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, the reason that you have this before you is it needs to be updated. The one that we have, the ordinance we have is 20 years old. And the Oregon Health Authority recommends that you update them every 10 years or so. And so we're 10 years behind that. And this is one of the last things we have to do. She comes every 3 years, and she's going to be here again, Michelle Bird from the Oregon Health Authority in Portland. And she's going to be here in May or June. And we need to have this done, have the new ordinance in place when she gets here. That'd be highly recommended. So that's basically it. And it's mostly just updates and changes verbiage, like going from Oregon Health Division is what it said 20 years ago. Now it's Oregon Health Authority. And like myself and Luis Campos, we're cross connection specialists. And they used to be called inspectors. That's what they're called in the one from 20 years ago. So it just updates a lot of that stuff, makes it a little more modern.
I have a question for you, Kevin.
Okay.
So if you built a house 20 years ago and you put in underground sprinklers and you used a double check anti-siphon valve, is it likely that that would need to be updated, or is it likely that that would meet the standard for today?
That would meet the standard, I believe. I'm not totally up to date on all this stuff. Louise Compost has done most of it, but I think that would pass as long as you've had it tested every year. Every device is supposed to be tested once a year. And if you've had it tested and it passes, then you're good.
And we'll come out and test you for free right now. Isn't that right?
Yeah, Luis has been out. He's just been concentrating on businesses right now, the last year. And he's new at this too. We're learning. And he's tested, like, we just stuck with public agencies so far. He's tested the ones down at the Marina Park, and he tested for the library. And so we're just now getting into residentials, actually, in the last week or two. He's been sending out questionnaires for that. But the state was wanting us to concentrate on the high hazard situations, like, you know, the car wash, the clinic, the dentist office, the motels, the apartment buildings, laundromat, stuff like that. The mini marts, restaurants.
He has a nice questionnaire prepared to send out. I didn't put it in the packet, I guess, and I probably should have, but for if you're residential or commercial, and you mark what you have and don't have, so people are at least aware of some of the things they need to be thinking about.
And well, we've been going with, well, Luis mostly. We've been working with Backflow Management in Portland, Garrett Yates. He's the foremost authority on backflow and cross connections in the state. And we've learned a lot from him, and he's got us pretty much where we are today.
So I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what Junior said before. So right now we're dealing with businesses and making sure backflow devices are correct and updated. Is that what we're doing right now?
Yeah, we've had, there's been lots of businesses put them in. They've had them, but they've not up to what the standards are today for the Oregon Health Authority. So like the grocery stores updated theirs, the clinic, the mini marts, and some of the apartment buildings. Yeah.
So this is going to pretty much trickle down to the residents of people in the city of Boardman as well. They're going to be responsible to make sure that their backflow devices are up to date as well.
Yeah. Eventually.
Eventually.
Yeah. Not today or tomorrow, but in the next few months. Yeah.
And how do these residents find out whether or not their backflow devices, and this is for sprinklers, right?
Yeah, for residentials, it's mostly their irrigation systems.
And so is the city just gonna pop in and test it, or what?
No, he's sending out questionnaires, and then when they send them back, and then he'll make appointments. He's just not gonna show up. He's gonna make appointments with them.
Do the citizens have to do this?
Yeah, I mean, yes, the answer to that is yes. Eventually, the city can go as far as, if you don't comply, and they can actually shut your water off, just due to, protecting the public water supply. That's the whole premise behind the idea.
I saw Junior had a question, didn't he?
He did.
Junior's question is, do you have an estimate on what the new backflow device could cost?
I think it double checks like a couple $100 for just an irrigation system for a residence. I'm not completely sure on that, but I think that's about what they are.
I do have another question, Kevin. How do you know if you have or don't have this device?
Well, a lot of people, yeah, they don't know if they do or not. Just need to go look. And that's what Luis does when he gets, if he has permission to come on your property, then that's what he does is look for it, find it, see if it's an approved device.
Can you tell me where in general proximity to the cylinders it would be located?
Well, they're normally right near your valve box for your sprinklers.
Right where it should be, right in your box.
So what does it look like?
It's a metal tube about like this, and then there's...
Yeah, and some of them are above ground. Some of them are like atmospheric vacuum breakers. They're above ground. You've probably seen them and just didn't realize what they are.
Mine has this little valve.
I'm not familiar if I have it or not.
That's why we're doing this.
Send Luis right over.
Yeah, not without my permission.
And it's Luis going out that we decided not to charge $40 on? That
Right.
Okay.
Yes, because, yeah. And especially if you have to have this done once a year, that's like double speak as far as.
I'm supposed to have my backflow device done, checked once a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No idea.
According to the health, what he was saying, I didn't know
Well,
either.
we're looking at your ordinance to put that into effect.
And what's like on the questionnaire that they've prepared, it says things like, do you have any of the following? A swamp cooler connected to piping, hot tubs filled with hose or automatic filler, swimming pool, underground sprinkler system, drip irrigation, greenhouse, solar water heating system, water makeup lines, utility sink with threaded faucet, hose attachment, whatever that means.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if you have a bucket of soapy water in your driveway that you're using to wash your car and you drop the hose in it, I mean, you're effectively creating a cross connection, and that, you know, if the city loses water pressure at that same time, I mean, that could siphon back into the public water supply.
Oh yeah, I got this thing.
Well, and maybe just for everybody's information, in our next packet, we'll include that brochure. Or we'll see that you all get that brochure. Because we send it out once a year, you will get a envelope from the city. And it will have things about how your water is tested. And I know nobody reads it. I think I'm probably the only person in Boardman that's ever read it. No, I come in and complain about it.
Oh.
That's my job, is complaining. So, yeah, so anyway, that usually comes out, what, in about May?
Between April and June.
So that's about May. Anyway, we try to get it out. And a lot of times we put your water bill in with that envelope, trying to get you.
You can read it. Go ahead and read it. It's easier for you to read it.
A question or a statement from Junior. I think we've discussed this before, but will the city be doing this in direct competition with a private inspector?
That's the other issue. There are plumbing companies that make money doing this. You know, they'll come out and do that, and they'll charge you $40 or $50.
We've talked to the lady in Salem or Portland, wherever she's at, about, she's the cross connection specialist and for the state. And just because you're a plumber doesn't mean that you're a cross connection specialist. And there's other cities like Luis has talked to, I think it was the city of Bend and the city of Gresham, and they have their own people, their city employees are cross connection specialists, and they go do this. And they like, there's a couple of them that divide up the $40 or $50, whatever it is they charge, and it goes onto your water bill and divide it up for 12 months, and it's like, so it'd be like $4 a month it's added, and you've paid for it, you know, through the year with your water bill. And so once a year, the city just shows up and tests it, and you've already paid for it because you've paid the extra $4 a month.
That's interesting.
That's a lot.
So there's different ways to do it, and you can do it for nothing, like what I think we're going to do. If we do it, I mean, they can pay to have a plumber do it. I mean, or a cross connection specialist do it, but, or backflow tester.
So in a few months, did I hear earlier that people are going to be required to have it checked? Is there something that happens after the period if they don't have that done? And
well,
have one person in the city who's just now moving to residential to get that done for those people?
I mean, there's going to be several months of warnings. I mean, you'll get letters like you have 6 months, you have 3 months, you know, to have this done. And then the city could ultimately shut your water off, but I'm not sure that Karen and I have talked about getting when we get to that point yet. So, I mean, that's down the road a ways.
Great.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay, so what Luis usually has me do is we start off with a questionnaire being sent out, and we started with the businesses, and now we started with Rome, and we're going to start going to the other residentials because he's pretty much done with the commercial. So we are sending out the questionnaires for the residents to complete, and then they send them back to us. The commercial ones that did not have the backflow cross connection on was given 6 months to install it. If they had that and it hadn't been tested, then they had the 3 months from the date of the letter to get it inspected and then provide the city proof that it was inspected. So that was the process. And like I said, we just now started with the residents. So.
And Luis is the inspector.
Yes.
So when he comes out and says, oh, you do have one or you don't have one, if you have one, he can inspect it. And at this time, it's free.
Yeah.
The inspection is free.
Just the inspection.
Just that inspection. The inspection to see if your backflow regulator works correctly. How much is that? Is that separate or is
anything we're going to come do is going to be free, except we're not going to install any kind of, we're just going to tell you, you need a new one or you need one.
Well,
and you need to have it tested.
Installed.
Probably a certified plumber.
Yeah, you have, if it needs to be installed, then you have to have a certified plumber install it. And they have to purchase a plumbing permit to install.
So it's gonna cost us more than the $40 we get charged. It's gonna cost us $50 for the plumbing permit.
It depends on whether or not you have one installed or not.
Just hope that it's not bad when we got to install it ourselves and didn't have to have a permit. Hope it didn't go bad.
But this is all so that if there was a backflow, that the community's water would still be safe to drink. There's not going to be any contaminants or anything flowed back into the water system.
Yeah, I see the city.
It's all in the spirit of delivering safe water and then and also complying with the Oregon Health Authority and what the rules that they set forth. I mean, we really don't have much choice.
Yeah, it's the state is requiring everybody to do that. It's just not the city of Boardman, but it's the state requirement.
She was here in June of 18, and she'll be here again in May or June of 21. And this was the last thing that we had to be in, to get done to be in compliance with what she was wanting done. So, I mean, it just needs to be done. Or you might have a new public works director.
You're giving me a hard time.
That was a joke.
So we need to do the first reading.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I have some comments before we read about grammatics. Whoever the author is, they must have had their justify on or off. Because if you look under section 3, item number 7, there seems to be where it says device lines should be up on the following line above it. And then the water needs to be on the bottom line, and the water needs to be indented over to justify. Also, on, it happened in one other location that it needs to be addressed.
We'll run this through the retype thing and we won't sign it then tonight.
Yeah, item number.
Well, it's just first reading. We don't sign it tonight, do we?
Right, no, good.
So it's just a first reading.
Yeah, section 22, it also needs to be addressed. And I have a question for Kevin on section 17. My question is, can this not lead to litigation?
Section 17.
Yes.
I'm not a lawyer, but I mean, the city has yeah, we can require that be installed.
I understand, but maybe we need to find out if the procedure we've got outlined there, if the owner says, no, you can't come onto my property, and you say, okay, well, we'll turn off your water, can that not lead to a possible litigation?
Well, I don't think so. I think in the rules of the Oregon Health Authority that the cities have authorization to shut your water off if you don't comply.
All right, just a thought.
There has been 2 places that at first refused to allow Luis on their property. And if he's not allowed to inspect that to see if you have it or if it is working, then you are considered to be a high hazard. And then that's when it goes to where, well, they're going to end up shutting your water off if you don't comply. Both those people, once they received the notice that they were at high hazard and it's required to install this, they both complied and allowed the inspection to be done.
I'm just saying, it might lead if the person is being obstinate. They say, well, take me to court, or I'll take you to court. And then your attorneys will get rich, my attorneys will get rich, and eventually we'll have to pay. So just a thought.
Aren't the easements on a property included in access? If you have a cable company that wants to come and inspect your cable, you can't stop him from coming on your property to do your cable inspections. An easement is an easement that gives access, I believe. So I think that's a moot point.
Well, Junior, some of the backflows are not on the easement. They're outside the limits of the easement. They're on the property owner's property, which does not extend out to the easement.
The public safety is probably going to supersede
Right.
personal.
I believe so.
So it won't, you can protest, but.
Well, you can, and you can litigate.
Just probably do it without.
Well, the city owns the water, the piping all the way up to the connection.
Right. But in my case, it's on my side of the connector. It's not on
The what is?
side.
The backflow.
Backflow valve.
Correct. It's on the. It's on all of them. It's on the back side.
Right.
or on the front side or whatever side.
Yeah, it's outside the city.
It's past the city.
Yeah.
So that's where it becomes your problem as citizen or the owner, homeowner, I guess, whatever. All right, so I guess we should probably do the first reading.
Right. So City of Boardman Ordinance 1-2021, adopting a cross-connection control program for the City of Boardman and repealing ordinance number 2-2001.
And that's all we do on that, on the first reading, is that correct? And then how many readings do we do?
Next, we'll do two. You
do two, and then we vote.
Yes.
Have the vote to approve or disapprove.
Well, I think when we read it the second time, next time, you approve it at that meeting. You don't.
Yeah, correct. You, after the second reading, then we approve or not approve the resolution, ordinance, I should say. All right, so the next we need to go to our resolutions 2-201, establishing system development charges.
Okay, that, we sent out an extra memo today because we've had questions. And I think when, as a staff, we work with this stuff every day, so it's, you know, like more common to us than it might be to you. And so there are 2 resolutions in your packet, and what you need to decide is if you want to go, okay, let's start at the beginning. In 2000, there was a study done about if you could charge SDC charges, and it's a big study. So they did that. When they brought it to the council at that time said, oh, well, we don't want to charge the full amount. Let's just charge 60% of what the full amount was recommended. So we have charged 60% of that figure for 20 years. When we did our workshop, I brought forward the fact that it seems to me like it would be a good idea to raise these after 20 years. So we gave you an example of if you raised it 100% or 90%, what those figures would be. So tonight you need to decide if you would be interested in raising which figure you want to raise the SDCs to, whether you want to use the 90% figure or the 100%. Then, after you decide that, then we go to deciding if we've waived our SDCs on a sliding scale. And you ask us to look at doing, instead of 4, put it in increments of 3. We did that. So now there's increments of 3. The first 5, 4, 3. Yeah, you count backwards. So anyway, the first 3 will be free. Then you go to a 70%, 60%, 50, and 40. In your packet, there's examples of the 100% scale or the 90% scale. And people that want to buy these in, like you say that, well, if I'm only building a single house, it's free. So that's a pretty good deal. If you're a developer and you want to build 6 houses or 10 houses, then you can see, you know, that it gets to be a pretty good deal if you add up what it would what we waive, what you would pay compared and divide it by number of permits you buy. So, is there anything else?
Karen? Yeah, we need to go back to.
I was gonna say, what does that say?
Yeah, so Jackie says we have on the ordinance 1-2021, we'll need to have a motion and a second for the ordinance for the first reading. And they cannot have a second reading until you have the motion or a motion and a second.
To allow the second reading.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we need a motion on
I'd like to move.
ordinance 1-2021 cross connection control program in order to allow us to have a second reading.
Said.
Okay, we have a motion.
I will.
So moved, thank you.
I will second.
And we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, it passes.
And real quick, Mike Lee's not wanting to interrupt, said he's heading home. And thank you for the opportunity to talk with everyone. Look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, Mike.
Before we decide whether we're gonna do 90% of the maximum allowed from the original study or 100%, I have a question about, are we going to seek out this same information again 21 years later to see what those numbers would be in today's market?
We actually did. Barry's going to be doing that, I do
Okay.
believe.
Because I think that we're probably needing some real clarification because we thought our instructions was, and it seems like not everybody thought that we're to go and get a study done for water, sewer, and transportation.
Correct.
And that we're to start as soon as as soon as we can get set to go, that you have given us the permission to do that.
I just wanted to verify that before I make my motion.
Right.
Yes, and that kind of generated from our retreat. We talked about that, and Barry we talked about that as well, that in order to get the transportation on there, we had to have another study. And then we just tie all three of those in together for the new one.
So any motion that we would have, any ordinance that resolutions we would be agreeing to tonight wouldn't necessarily be reflected in a new study. Is that right? Because so if I made a motion to do the 100%, a new study, we wouldn't be charging 100% of the new study. We would
New study's gonna take a while.
We would have the option, but we wouldn't be.
But in a way, this is probably another conversation, but why would I spend a lot of money doing a study and then not take the information and use it? And do what they did before and say, well, it's only good for half. I mean, I can't make that decision without the study. So that would be up to you to say, well, okay, we've proven that that you should charge this amount. But, oh, well.
That's not my question, I don't think.
I know, but I wanted to answer the question that was gonna be next year. In case I'm not here.
In case you're not here.
Are you planning something?
Yeah,
And not letting us in on it?
Because we do this every year. This is a yearly thing.
Well, no, that's the SDC charges.
Right.
Yes.
The 90% and 100% are not a yearly event.
We can make it a yearly
Well,
event. Why couldn't we?
And
We get the new study, we're gonna have the same shock again.
Well, and we'll, like she's saying, we'll probably not, this will be old and mute, and then.
Correct, and we'll have new information,
Yeah.
and then we'll have to decide, do we want the 100%, do we want the 90%, do we want the sliding scale?
Right.
And that will be another talk that we'd have to have with our new information.
That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to say new information is going to generate a new talk.
Yes.
So
In my mind, it does.
With that, I would like to move that we go with 100% City of Boardman Resolution 2-2021.
Okay, now are we gonna tie the 100% and the sliding scale together, or is that two different ones? Okay, two different ones.
This is just the resolution for starting to charge what was from the 2000 study, 100% of that
Gotcha.
value.
Okay, so we have a motion to for resolution what, 2?
Yes.
2-221 for the SDC charges at 100%.
And you better ask for a question or whatever that.
A question.
You need to say, so if anybody.
I thought we kind of had the discussion before, but I think the question comes after the second.
Okay. Yes. Just so you get it in there.
Mm-hmm.
It might die. I think my thinking on it is that if you're a single homeowner and you're purchasing one home, you're getting the entire thing waived, regardless of the original cost. If you're a developer, you can develop 3 homes a year for free. If you want to develop 30 homes, you're going to have to pay for 27 of them. Now, maybe you're going to do that on a sliding scale. That remains to be seen tonight. But the difference in charge is between $1,167 for a home and $1,297. We're talking $130 a house.
Anybody got a second?
Move on.
Okay, that ends that motion.
Mr. Mayor, I motion we accept the resolution for 90% of the fees instead of the 100%. That way it looks like we're not trying to be greedy and get all the money that we are entitled to collect. And it gives the builder an opportunity to see that we realize that it is expensive to build and we want to give them a little bit of a break. So I motion that we adopt the 90% resolution 2-2021.
Okay, I have a motion for the 90% resolution 2-2021.
I'm going to second it.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Now's the time for a question.
So I have a question.
Okay, Junior.
So if we pass this resolution and Glenn and Kevin go and find out that we can change waiving the building permit instead of the SDCs, where does that put us?
I don't think we would do anything in this full year. I wouldn't anticipate any kind of a change until January of 21. Then we
22.
Is that right? 22? Okay. So in 22, we would bring forward the new information. And it's going to take a real restructuring of our thought process here about SDC charges compared to permit fees and stuff. Barry, I see you unmuted. Would you want to say something?
With the information brought forward tonight by Ed, it will make a complex process of doing the SDC calculations and homework necessary to put in, because we would look at the water, the sewer, and the transportation. We've got a methodology now of equivalent dwelling units. There are other ways that may be a better way to charge after we go through and assess the financials that we would have in the reimbursement fee and the improvement fee, because we end up having to add up all the costs associated with the infrastructure that's in the ground now, how much of it is used, and then what the remainder is for the reimbursement fee. Same thing with the improvement fee at our capital improvement plans and projects in the capital improvement plans that get thrown into the improvement fee, and the two of them is the actual SDC. We will be adding basically a fourth element to look at with the building permit fees. And so that's one of those things, how that's going to fit. That's where we're going to need a consultant. We'll go out for an RFP.
Okay, well, that was just my concern, is if it was something that was going to interfere with that study, if it was going to happen this year or not. I didn't want to get the cart ahead of the horse. If it's going to be next year before we know how that all plays out, then I'm okay to go ahead.
And I'm perfectly willing to make the two of them and trying to figure out how to make those work together, because the building permit fee and the SDCs we don't know yet whether the SDCs are going to be higher than what the building permit fees are. So those are all things that we can put in the RFP to be looked at, so we can come up with the methodologies for the SDCs and with Glenn on the building permit side.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry, Gene. Any other questions? All right, so I have a motion and a second. We'll just do a roll call on this.
Junior?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Paul Beagle?
Yes.
Brenda?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Paul Kiefer?
Yes. All right, the motion passes and carries. So it looks like we're gonna do the 90%. Now we need to go on to the sliding scale and determine whether or not we want to go with, I do believe it was the first going every 3, or do we want it for the every 4?
No, I don't think that's your option.
That wasn't the option, it was just the 3?
Yeah, it's just a 3. It was after you decided if you wanted to go either 100 or 90.
Because the 4 is what we already had. So we decided, so we're gonna need to decide whether, so we just gotta pass this resolution then.
Yes.
All right, so I need a motion for resolution 3-2021.
I will make a motion to pass resolution 3-2021.
Correct. All right.
I'll second that.
Okay, I got a motion and a second. Or is there any question about this? Okay, we'll do a roll call again, please.
Junior?
Yes.
Katie? Katie?
Yes.
Okay.
Leslie?
Yes.
Paul Beagle?
Yes.
Brenda?
Yes.
Isaac?
Yes.
Paul Kiefer?
Yes. Okay, the motion carries and resolution 3-2021 passes. And so that took care of our SDC waivers, and we've already talked about the GO bond. So we're into other business, which is update signers on the Banner Bank. Now, is that just signatures that need to be taken care of? Is that what?
We need to have it in the minutes that we're, going to take off the ones that we're going to remove and add the others.
So do I just need to read that? Or how do we know?
Marta, are you, what?
It says right on here.
Somebody needs to.
I included a sample motion because that's the exact wording that the bank needs to update all the signers.
Right, where's it at?
It
It's at the
says, I
bottom.
move to update the signers on the city of Boardman public funds analysis
It's on this
check-in
sheet here,
and public funds deposit accounts.
about half a page,
Yeah, okay.
226,
second one.
2021.
I move to update the signers,
Oh, okay, got that.
and it's with the Bank of Eastern Oregon.
It's for both banks, yeah.
There's two different motions.
I will second the motions. They've already been motioned.
I didn't get to read the second one,
Yeah.
but I think we should do them one at a time.
Yes, it should be done one at a time. So go ahead and read the first motion, Mr. Beagle.
I move to update the signers on the city of Boardman's public funds analysis checking and public funds deposit accounts held with Banner Bank by removing Sandy Toms, Brandon Hammond, David Jones, and Art Kegler, and updating signers to be Karen Pettigrew, Paul Kiefer, Roy Grego Jr., Katie Norton, Leslie Pearson, Paul Beagle, Brenda Prophet, and Isaac Williams.
Okay, so I have a motion and I need a second.
I'll second.
You got the motion, so she's the second.
Oh, you said second?
I did.
Just now?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed it. Hey, and all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? Okay, that carries. For the next one, I need a motion.
Also a motion.
Go ahead and read it, please, for me.
I move to update the signers on the city of Boardman's money market account held with the Bank of Eastern Oregon by removing Sandy Toms, Brandon Hammond, David Jones, and Arthur Kegler, and updating signers to be Karen Pettigrew, Paul Kiefer, Roy Grego Jr., Katie Norton, Leslie Pearson, Paul Beagle, Brenda Prophet, and Isaac Williams.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it. This is Leslie.
All right, Leslie, you got the second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. All right, reports. Police report.
So before we do that, I'm assuming they're gonna have to go to the bank and sign those cards. Have we said that yet?
I think Marta, what did you decide?
We need the minutes. Yeah, we'll need to present the minutes to the bank first, and they'll prepare the signature cards. And then I'll check with them what their current policy is, because they change, whether you will need to physically go to the bank and sign, or whether we'll pick up the signature cards and then go around and grab signatures. So I'll let you know once I know.
So what if we are already signers on their accounts? Do we have to sign again, or are we already covered?
No, you'll have to sign again because all the signature cards are on one document. So you'll have to sign.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, everybody should have gotten a copy of the month-end report for February. Are there any questions regarding that report? Okay. Also, wanted to update the council that I hired and swore in Tanner Cooney, who used to work for the sheriff's office, about a 7-year police officer, to fill in temporarily for a lack of staff that we've had for injuries. And then he's going to replace or fill a vacancy that's going to be created by retirement coming up at the end of March, the first part of April.
Who's
so
retiring?
Detective Sherman with our Bent detective is going to, he's got 31 years.
That's a lot of years.
He's ready to finally hang it up. He retired from Oregon State Police, and we were lucky enough to bring him on to do that position. Detective Sherman used to be the lieutenant, Oregon State Police out of Pendleton for the district commander, and used to run the Bent team at one point. So he was when we had the option to hire him, he was a a great fit for that position. But he's since retired or decided it's time to finally hang it up. And so we will be doing what we call an assessment center. Anybody that in our agency that's interested in that position will go through an assessment center, which they're scored, and the top candidate will be assigned to that position. So we will be doing something for Detective Sherman, but it's pretty tough right now with COVID. So, he's probably not wanting something to be done, but we recognize he's been a great asset to our team and wish him luck in the future. So I think aside from that, I think we've had discussion, and I may have mentioned it, that the Senate bill, I believe it was 238. I could be wrong. That was the one in reference to school resource officers. That bill is dead and will not be getting a hearing. So we're excited to hear that. It would have been detrimental to remove our school resource officers. So aside from that, I don't have a lot of information. I'm open for any questions that I can answer.
When did you say Tanner starts?
He swore in today.
I grew up with Tanner. I'm excited to hear
that. He'll be a great asset. His father is a sergeant for Oregon State Police and has been for a long time as well.
Great guy.
In fact, he's turned over his 30-year mark. So
really,
so we're excited to have Tanner aboard. The sheriff's office right now in the last 2 weeks had 5 resignations. And so some of those officers are moving on to other agencies. We just didn't have 5 openings because they're all good officers, and I wouldn't have had an issue looking at any of them. But yeah, there's quite a vacancy at the sheriff's office right now. I think they have 8 openings out of 11. So.
Thank you, Grandpa.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Try to be kind of careful so I don't get in trouble with my son-in-law and daughter, but they did give birth to a baby girl yesterday afternoon.
Congratulations.
So we're pretty excited. She's a beautiful, happy baby girl. So we're excited.
And Sam will never be the same. I don't care what anybody says, he'll never be the same because he had his baby girl.
Yep. So we're excited. Haven't been able to hold her yet because they're still in the hospital, and they only allow one person besides the birthing partner. So we hope to see them tomorrow.
Cool.
I can emphasize with that. My grandson was born on the 24th of November, and I got to hold him for the first time a month later.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Tough. It's tough to wait that long.
Yeah.
My wife is chomping at the bits.
You see pictures and everything, and you say, well, Dad can hold them, and Mom can hold them. Well, you know, what about grandparents? They're an integral part.
I kind of think my wife, she took time off to help.
Right.
But I think she must have been on the phone constantly with my daughter today. And I'm like, you got to give them a little space. Anyway, we're excited. Thank you.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
Building department report.
Okay, I don't really have anything prepared other than February was pretty slow. We only did 3 or 4 houses countywide. So like everybody can see, Family Dollar's going. We're, what else is going on? March is already kicked off. I think we've received 4 new single family residential applications here in Boardman alone. Not that it is prevalent to Boardman, but Oregon is actually getting a lot of development. I just want to put a shout out. They need it too. But so that's about it. We're really slow. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question. Can you tell me what's going into the old Shell place that's being torn down as we speak?
I can tell you rumors. I don't count anything to be actually happening until I see it on my plans table or on Barry's zoning approval. There, I don't know, should I say the rumor? Any direction from management?
We have not received a zoning application for it at this point.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
All right, Public Works Department report.
Yes. I put together this report. That's about, I mean, I don't know if anybody has any questions. I tried to hit the highlights.
Thank you for the snow removal. You did a great job.
Thank you.
I have a question on that. Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Go ahead.
Kevin, I got to ask you why you refused to remove the snow for the food pantry. I was told that they were telling the people that requested it that it's a private entity, whereas it's not a private entity. It serves the public.
That information did not trickle down or up or whatever to me. I don't know anything about it, so I can't answer your question. Where's the food pantry? Is that at the old Lutheran church?
Yes, people that
I don't know. If I would have known about it, I mean, I think we probably would have went over and plowed it out, but I didn't know.
Yeah, please direct it to those individuals that are doing the plowing.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Sure thing.
Anybody else had anything about the Public Works Department? They're pretty busy for about 7 days. When didn't want to stop snowing.
I have to tell you, they've been really busy. You just can't believe how busy we are anymore. But like over here across the street where the Family Dollar, that water pipe was probably 6 feet deep or so, which is unusual for a water pipe. But, you know, if you all were here when they were just pushing the dirt from one side of this lot to the other, apparently they got a lot of dirt pushed over on top of that. Well, that makes setting a simple meter into, and then the wind blew 35 miles an hour continually. So it made a job that would have been a day job into maybe 3, well, I'm not sure we're done, but at least 3 days.
Yeah, I was just looking at that hole and it's like,
oh, it's awful.
Who's buried down there?
Well, yes, and we're kind of on the verge of, yeah.
I got 2 things on the snow and ice removal that I'd like to, we don't get much snow in Boardman, but the first year I ever I bought a snow blower 2-3 years ago, and I don't mind using it, but every time I blew off my sidewalk, the city came and plowed snow back onto my sidewalk. So the ordinance says that we got to take care of our sidewalks. I didn't mind doing it because I got to play with my toy, but people who have to shovel it, that was a concern that people had. So I was just wondering, I know we got to get the snow off the street, number one concern. People want to leave their cars parked on the street, plow them in. Get them off the street. You're going to shovel it out. I've been there, done that. But if there is a way to be able to, I don't know what the right answer is for that, but it snowed for 7 days. So it might have been an extreme. The other question I had, is there a way to plow snow to where we don't bury people's driveways to where they can't get out? So they already got the snow that snowed, and then the city or the plows will come and they plow more additional snow.
And it's hard to remove.
It can be very difficult. So I was just wondering, is there a solution to that we might be able to
Well, I don't think you could raise your plow at every driveway you come to. I mean, I don't think that would.
Can you change the angle of it to try to keep snow out of the people's driveways, or do we just plow the snow into their driveway and say, good luck?
Well, yeah, I mean, I moved over here from the coast, so this is the first place I've ever plowed snow. So I don't know. I mean, I think if you plow snow, I mean, it's got to go somewhere. So
correct. I had a couple people who have plowed snow before who felt that it could have been done a little bit to where it didn't barricade people's driveways. Now that was an opinion, and all I shared is it snows between 7 to 10 days a year at the most. So
there are, Mr. Mayor, there are blades that can be articulated 30 degrees, 45 degrees, and they can be in towards the drive or out away from the drive when they drive through.
So it's more of a suggestion, not a criticism, is that we had some citizens who were concerned because we got a lot of snow, that they felt like every time they plowed their driveway, it got refilled with more snow.
3 times.
And so maybe that's something that we can take a look at in the future, just because it was a concern. That's all. You guys did a great job on the snow. 2nd Street got plowed, normally doesn't get plowed, which is nice. So.
I have a question too.
Yes.
I don't even know, Kevin, if you guys were able to plow in Bella Vista, but I could almost not get through the city streets in there to get to Paul Smith. And at one point it was just a sheet of ice, just pure ice, but it was because the snow was so compact. And I guess my real question is, if the city doesn't plow in there because of the sheer number of cars that are parked on the sides of the street, and they can't even turn the plow and truck around in like a cul-de-sac or a turnaround spot, maybe there's something that the residents can do to facilitate that better? Because it was a little bit dangerous in there. You couldn't stop at an intersection, for example.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's so many cars in there on the street, it makes it hard to plow. I mean, there again, so then where do you plow it? You know, I mean, do you plow people's driveways in? Do you plow their cars in? I mean, it has to go somewhere. I mean, it's just not going to disappear when you plow it, you know, yeah. I mean.
Even if we could, I don't know if there's something we could do like on the main thoroughfare in there that would make it so that we don't wreck quite so easily on those main roads. But so if you think it's just about moving cars, maybe we can work with the other residents on that.
Yeah, I guess when it snows, if everybody wants to put their cars in the driveways, I mean, that would help.
I wanted to say too, thank you, Kevin. I came from Pendleton where the city does not plow the streets. So when I work there every day and coming back here, I brag to them. I'm like, little town of Boardman has their own plow, but Pendleton doesn't have one. They have hills. So thank you. I just wanted to say I was super appreciative of that.
Well, I mean, we try. I mean, the guys that do the plowing now are very dedicated to it. I mean, we got 3 really good trucks and plows and sanders. And I mean, they've learned that, I mean, like when we go out on the main streets, I mean, they'll get one in the center, one in the middle, and one on the side, you know, on the edge. And I mean, go up the road 3 at a time, and it makes it a lot quicker, and we get a lot more done that way to get to the side streets quicker. So anyway.
I was pretty impressed with what they did this year. Even though I sounded a little critical, I was very impressed. Even when we had the little bit of freezing rain to where school was canceled that one day, and how quickly and how early they got out and they were sanding. I mean, there's people that recognize that, and even our fire chief said some very good things about the road crews and how they were able to get things plowed, and that we have the number of trucks and plows to be able to take care of that. He was pretty impressed with that. He's from Montana too, so it was nice.
We have a message from Leslie.
Okay.
Leslie says we're past 9 p.m. for council rules. We need to adjourn or extend at this point.
I think you ought to extend for till 9:30.
I think we'll be done by 9:30. We will be done by 9:30. Let's put it that way.
Do we need a motion or do we just need to verbally say?
I'm not sure what the policy is or to be able to extend.
I don't believe you need a motion. I think you just extend.
We've never had anybody bring it up before.
So we will be done by 9:30. Is there any other things that we'd like to talk about the Public Works Department?
I do have an observation, Mr. Mayor. This evening I was out looking at the flags in the roundabout, and the POW MIA flag needs to be replaced. It's kind of shredded with the winds that we had here recently.
I've got the POW MIA flag and the American flag in the front seat of my truck, and I just didn't get it done this afternoon, but we'll get it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
We talked about
And that's Kevin, right? This is Kevin talking.
Yeah, that was Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. I gotta memorize people's names and faces. Anything else on the Public Works Department report? Anybody have any comments?
I love the sign, Kevin, at the splash pad. I went by that morning that they were hanging it, and I was like, what is going on here? They had big old boom truck.
They put the sign on the fence posts and it was just pushing it over. So we took it down, I don't know, a couple, 3 months ago, and Luis just got time to, he did that himself. It's pretty amazing what he can do. And no, he did a really nice job on it.
Yeah, it does. It looks nice.
Luis Flores.
Anything else? Are there any committee reports? City manager report. I know you gave us, I love your memo. I do. I do like it.
I write just like I'm writing to my family.
We are.
You didn't get a love Karen though.
I used to say that, but then I decided I better knock it off. So, no, I think I was looking for if I had any other notes.
Can you talk a minute about the OCDC?
Oh, what do you want to say about it? We're going to be close to done.
That'd be great.
You see over there, they're over finishing up in the modular, supposed to be here. They say the 8th, but let's be realistic and call it the 12th or the 15th. But
they changed, they pushed that back to the 11th.
That project's supposed to be completed by the end of June. And I think we're finally.
Do you remember the start date on that?
I do, because I just looked it up. And it was in 2015, I signed those papers because I've been trying to call CASA and they aren't answering the phone. They're off.
You need somebody's cell number?
Oh, I do if you have somebody's.
Well, my phone's dead, but I'd be happy to help you.
Okay, because if I could have talked to somebody on Friday last week.
Since you brought that up, I think we need to have a notice put out, a public notice on the street being closed on the.
Oh, yes.
I know that was brought up because the fire department had it written on their board. So I know that, but I really think we probably should put that in English and Spanish for our citizens who go up and down that road. So if we had power to our reader board sign, that'd be a great thing to put on it.
No,
I know it's a plan, but it would be a really nice thing to put on your reader board.
I'll get my whip out. And see, Kevin, where's the electrician?
He's going, huh? What are you talking about?
Okay, no, but that is a good idea because we'll make sure that everybody knows that road will be closed.
Because I think it's for more than a couple days.
Probably.
at least with the dates I saw on our board.
Yes.
Anything else you had there, City Manager?
No, I think that, no, I think we're good.
All right, so we're into the part where we have counselors. I know Counselor Beagle had something to talk about, and we got about 10 minutes, 15
It's only going to take about 5. If you read the little additive that I sent to Karen, she said we need to include it. I looked up some studies from Harvard, Yale, the Mayo Clinic, and the Center for Disease Control that talking about stress and how it's related to heart disease, stroke, cancer, chronic respiratory disease. I want to eliminate that or mitigate that as much as possible. So I put feelers out to the people that would be affected, which day would be sufficient or preferred for rescheduling the monthly meeting. And the consensus was that the Tuesday of the second week of the month would be sufficient or more appreciative or applicable to have our monthly meeting. So I tried to tailor it after some of the ordinances that I've read. However, it's not up to a specific format, but I got it as close as I could. And that's what I've got.
So do we have any discussion about this on what people's thoughts are?
I think it sounds good. I mean, I think Paul has a good point that it's going to allow more time for everybody to get everything prepared so it's not such a rush. So I like it.
I think Barry had an explanation though that we've not talked about. And planning has days to count. You know, if we have a meeting and he needs to get something, like if the planning commission, do you want to do this talking? Our thing is so bad. Our speaker in here. But anyway, Barry, do you want to address this?
It's a matter of timing. If it's on the first Tuesday, planning is the third Wednesday. If we shorten that up, I've only got 8 days to prepare for planning commission, if we've got a lot on the docket. And in this upcoming one, I'm glad it was tonight because I've got 3 staff reports that I've got to put together before the 17th. So it takes time to do those things. And by having it, the council early in the month and then the planning commission in the middle of the month, I have time to regenerate to get back to the first part of the month again.
I think what he's trying, I'm going to paraphrase what I think he's saying, is, you know, there's so many times that if you're going to, in his life, that if he's going to do a public notice, you have to do it within 21 days, or there's certain number of days you have to do things between things. If you, that has a consequence on the days between our meetings. And that's the only thing we wanted to bring up so that you had that to think about in the conversation here.
The 21-day public notice, the way it's structured now, we can quite often get, if we're doing a type 4 decision, which is a legislative decision that comes before the council, it allows us time from the planning commission to the council meeting. Most of the time we can fit that 21-day notice in and makes it go a lot faster, because otherwise we go a whole nother month before I can get it before the council.
And so that would, I guess the option would be, because we're kind of making it easier for one department and harder for another department. So, and if you're willing to, like you say, and this isn't something that happens every month, don't let me mislead you here. But if we had a special circumstance like we did this last February, where you were willing to come in for a short meeting, you know, in the middle, you know, in an off time, that would be your other option, is to move it to the second and then be willing to, if we had to have an emergency meeting for some reason or other.
In your January meeting, we got caught in terms of we didn't have enough time for public notice. So we had to wait a whole month for the council to come back in. And that was on the current schedule.
And see, that only people that are wanting us to make those decisions, that we're doing those public notices, they're the ones that get antsy with us. So anyway, I wanted you to just.
Is there any other discussion about this that anybody questions or comments people wanted to bring up?
I have a few comments I'd like to make.
Okay, Leslie.
I think Mr. Beagle's suggestion is relevant, but I also understand Mr. Byler's situation. And I concur with what Karen stated about making it harder for one group, but then easier for another. And I feel like there's got to be perhaps another option here. Another frustration, besides the fact that we don't get some of these reports on time or with ample time to review them because of the tight deadlines, especially with the budget report, is some days we don't get updates, or we end up receiving multiple updates up to the time of our meeting, like tonight. And I'm wondering if we can bump out our meeting, delay it a week, if we can avoid some of that repetitive updates and extra documents and last minute work, which leads us as counselors at the last minute trying to read what we've just received.
I don't think that would change, to be honest, unless you give us a direction that you do not want us to send you any more information past whatever given date. You know what I'm saying? Like if you say to us, well, then we don't, you can, the Tuesday before, say this month would be a great example. Don't send us anything that from today, Tuesday the 2nd. Don't send us anything new that goes on between the 2nd and the 9th or whatever next Tuesday would be. So that's the decision. And I think probably as a staff, we're okay with whatever you decide about that.
But do we want to go down that road?
I just think it makes us inflexible.
Well, there's things that just, every day something comes up at City Hall. You know, it's like snow, it comes up.
I remember when we didn't have an electronic path for this. We would get our packet on a Friday afternoon. Barry would drive around Boardman delivering packets. And then we would read that whole packet. We would come to the meeting sometimes on Tuesday and we would get an updated version, something with more dangly details or things that couldn't be grappled with. Maybe it wasn't even the end of the month on Friday. Right. And so we were waiting until the end of the month on Monday to get the data for the Tuesday meeting, much like today, possibly. But back in those days, we had 2 meetings. We had a beginning of the month and a middle of the month. And sometimes we got our financial in the middle of the month. So that took care of that problem for the finance person. We also, because we were able to meet more, it took care of Barry's problems with his 21 days notice and his ability to get resolutions and ordinances and planning and zoning passed in a timely way so that constituents and industry were happy. So yeah, I think there's wins and losses in every scenario you can play out.
Yeah, I agree with Brenda, but also I think what Leslie was getting at is sometimes, especially for us newer counselors that have only been on a couple of years, when we have to make a decision on a resolution we're not super familiar with, it can be a bit overwhelming to get documents, you know, when we just don't have the thought, you know, brain power to get it through it with everything else. And so in those cases, sometimes it feels a bit overwhelming. So, but, you know, I want to mention, given the information that Barry gave, I think that brings a new perspective, and that maybe we shouldn't move the meeting, just leave it as is and continue on, because I didn't realize until tonight that would affect you in that way. But like Leslie said, maybe there's a middle ground we can come to, you know, just kind of brainstorming a bit. So.
Well, and I think staff, I think whatever the council decides, we will accommodate for sure. That.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
Does anybody have any thoughts about us potentially starting at 6 p.m. versus 7?
I was thinking about that earlier in our meeting. It feels like the last few meetings we've had have kind of been constraining on people's evenings and when they kind of flutter off to bed, and I was going to ask the same thing. Would meeting at 6 be?
I came here straight from work. I arrived about 10 to 7. So
okay.
That wouldn't be an option for me.
Okay.
Well, as it being coming close to 9:30, I say we table this and we have a discussion. Either we can continue the discussion or we don't discuss. But as it comes down to the end of the time, I think we should table it for another time when we have some more. It's not past our time. If anybody objects to that. All right.
Did we ask who B was on the?
They weren't there when we started the meeting, so.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to find out who B is?
It helps for the minutes, but.
We see somebody with the letter B on the screen. We'd like to know who that is.
Yeah, they don't have.
No. All right, having that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Good night.
Good night.
Oh.